Recorded live.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ron. We wasn't able to record last Wednesday's CCN on MSOs. We're going to do it here tonight. So we're going to have a back-to-back talk show. So give me a minute. Let me pull the recording up, and we'll get started with it. My granddaughter made this. Congressional Records from 53, 81st Congress, says that the National Lawyers Guild is a communist party, and the 1953 Congressional Records in the 81st Congress says so. So we're not a lawyer, so we're not communists. We are pure-blood, red American people trying to save our country and trying to educate people in what the law is and not what we're told. I've been off air for several weeks, and it wasn't because of anything where I got thrown in jail or hijacked. It was processed, and I've been out on the road traveling. I've been out educating. Ladies and gentlemen, here in North Carolina, I'm going to bring up something. Here in North Carolina, under Chapter 84.2, if you get in and read it, it tells you who is prohibited to practice law. Who is prohibited? Well, what and who is prohibited in practicing law will surprise you. Now, see if I can get it pulled up here. And we will read it to you. And what it says will absolutely shock you. Because it is not what you think. It is not who you think. It is. I'm not able to pull it up. But what it gets into, it says, who is prohibited? It says justice, judges, district attorneys, assistant district attorneys, clerk, assistant clerk, register of deed, assistant register of deed. It gets into lawyers, public defenders. It talks about sheriff deputies. It talks about all kinds of public officials that are prohibited from practicing law. Now, when you go back and read this, it doesn't say Rod Class. It doesn't say you. It only says justice, judges, DAs, lawyers, police officers, clerks. Everybody who holds a public office is not allowed to practice law. So this really blows the whole thing when you walk in. Well, you can't practice law in my court. We got laws against this. No, sir. What you have is you got laws that you can't practice law, and neither can this DA. Why are they in here? Because here's the law that says you guys can't. I can, you can't. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a significant find on what we are sitting here finding out here in North Carolina, and a lot of other states have that same thing. What we have also found here in North Carolina is what is known as the Industrial Commission. Now, it sounds like the Industrial Commission deals with GE, Firestone, Microsoft, Ford, Chevy. Quite contrary. Who and what it applies to is public offices. Because remember, they're listed as a corporation, they're listed as an industry on the stock market, on MANA, and in the North American Industrial Classification. They are listed as an industry. The Industrial Commission, I filed paperwork in to them against a judge, against a prosecutor, and against a law enforcement officer. I got paperwork back file my claim and against these people who work for the state. They even gave me a list of who can be sued in a tort claim in the state. Ladies and gentlemen, this is very significant on our side of the fence. This opens up the door that now, and the one friend I had called his one contact. He says, I'm going to ask you a hypothetical question. And the hypothetical question was, if we were to do a tort claim, who would we go to? And right off the bat, the information was Industrial Commission. No second thoughts, no hesitation. The words Industrial Commission here in North Carolina. These are the ones who deal with public agencies. Why am I telling you this? Ladies and gentlemen, I am fed up with the walls being broke out on the street. And in these courts, they are committing more felonies. They are committing more civil rights violations. I had a run-in with three state highway patrolmen out here in the front yard. They had some lady pulled over. And I went out there. And I was out there in the ditch. And the guy said, you get off the ditch, that's state property. I said, no, sir, most certainly is not state property. So, well, this is state highway. I said, no, sir, I own this highway. I said, I pay taxes on it. Well, I'm state highway patrol. No, sir, you are most certainly are not, because I am the one who went to the administrative court in Raleigh, and they come back and said, you're nothing more than a private contractor, and I stripped you of your immunity. Now, the issue here is I wanted to talk to you. We escalated this. I said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to bring charges against you. And I'm going to bring a claim against you. And that's exactly what I did here today. I fired paperwork off to his commander. Ladies and gentlemen, I want all of you, I want you to stop and think about something here for a minute. Most people, this goes right over their head. Most people, it goes in one ear and out the other. The bottom line to all this is this. The state owns nothing without the people. If every one of us was to be taken off of this continent, all of us would be taken off this continent, these public offices would have nothing. They would go belly up and they would close. Why? Because you and I are the means that allows them to have a building. You and I are the means to allow them to have clothes on their back. Now, Rod, what are you saying here? What I'm saying here is we hold down a real job. We work at Kmart, steel factories, car companies, Microsoft, real jobs that actually do real, honest work that creates productivity. These public offices don't create productivity. These public offices are leeches. If it wasn't for us, and this is what I put in the letter, they could not own a home, if that home don't belong to them. That home was paid by you and me. Their clothes on, that uniform that man has was paid for by you and I. Well, that was through federal funding. Oh, federal funding? Where did federal funding come from, ladies and gentlemen? I have told history here in the United States from 1999 up to date, $393 million. I'll say that again. $393 million in federal grant money from Washington, D.C. was used to buy these people their bulletproof vest. That bulletproof vest is through federal funding, thanks to you and I. State Justice Institute, which is another under Title 28, 113 chapter. State Justice Institute is federally funded by you, the audience. Now, grasp what we're saying here, because everything we're sitting back saying, you, the audience, put in the bill on all of this. You gave federal grant money to the State Justice Institute for them to take into these courts, for them to railroad you and I. And remember, that judge's wages comes from you, the people. That bench comes from you, the people. That robe comes from you, the people. There is nothing in that building, courtroom, electricity, water, you name it, that you, the people, did not pay for. Now, why are we being treated like garbage? We're being brought into these courtrooms by people who would not have a job if it wasn't for us out here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time that we start taking back what belongs to us. Last several weeks, I've been tied into other cases, other jobs, doing research. We have found different administrative offices in different states that deal with public officials and their private capacity as a public official or in their personal capacity as a public official. This has been a very significant time off for the research that we got our hands on. Ladies and gentlemen, the administrative side, and you got to understand, we're dealing with agencies here. That law enforcement is an agency. It's not judicial. According to the federal statute, Mr. Kloss, we don't go by federal statutes, we go by the state. Well, let's you and I go back and see where the federal funding's coming from. Oops. Oh, I guess we do go by federal funding. Yes, you do. Under Title 49, which is the Department of Transportation, Chapter 149, it says on any traffic violations, you have to go before an administrative judge, which means you are to required to go before the Secretary of Transportation. It's in their books. I didn't make it up. Don't have to make it up. All I got to do is go back in and pull up Title 49, the United States Code, click down the little section that says Statutes at Large, and voila, it sits there and says, Secretary of Transportation has to hear your case. Ladies and gentlemen, they are deliberately taking us into a judicial review, which is supposed to have been an administration, but they're taking us into a judicial review without an administrative hearing, and they're finding us guilty on a felony. Problem of it is, the federal law sits here and says all traffic violations are a civil action, civil penalties, civil, not criminal. The state cannot up the ante. What the federal government says this is civil, well, we're going to do criminal. No, no, no. You're higher than the federal government for which the federal funding you are obtaining. We have have a problem here, ladies and gentlemen, and it's something that we need to address. It's something that we need to start confronting. The knowledge on our side is going to have to start increasing. If you want to be free, you want to be free. Well, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to do my status and I'm going to do all these wonderful things and I'm going to send this off to this guy who holds this office, which remember, we talked about this. That office is vacant. The lights are on. Nobody's there because these people got removed from that office under the federal status of their position, and they got removed to the UN. Ladies and gentlemen, you want to be free? You really want to be free? In order to be free, we have to start attacking these people administratively. When that police officer pulls you over, it is an administrative agency. I want an administrative hearing, and I want it now, and I damn well better get it, or I'm going to take you down to, here in North Carolina, the Industrial Commission, and I will file a tort claim against you, and I will have your job, and I will have your badge, and I will have my cruiser. Ladies and gentlemen, we are dealing with agencies. I want you to use a little bit of logic here. I want you to use a little bit of common sense. If Title 49, Department of Transportation, sits here and says that the Secretary of Transportation is the one who has to hear your claim, and if you want to review, then you take it down for a judicial review of an administrative hearing, not a judicial criminal hearing. Ladies and gentlemen, we're being scammed. We are being waylaid and shanghaied. These last several weeks that I've been in on this with you guys earlier, and some of these other sessions that we've done, we need to start nailing the administrative agencies. The moment that cop pulls you over and he wants to take you into a judicial court, I object. I'm going to file paperwork. I want an administrative hearing. Either you bring me up before your commander or you bring me up before DOT. And DOT actually is the one that gave me my license, so I want a hearing before DOT. And if you take me anyplace else, I'll have charges up on you. Ladies and gentlemen, you want to be free? The only way to be free is if we start acting appropriately whenever an agency is dealing. Okay, but Rod, I'm dealing with IRS. What's your point? Well, that goes back to the United States District Court. No, that's not an agency. That is a judicial review for an administrative hearing you never got. People, I want you to stop and think. Get into Title 26, IRS Code, under 6331. It sits here and says that the Secretary of the Treasury is the one who puts a lien against you. Secretary of Treasury. Did I say the United States District Court? The 6th Circuit, 11th Circuit, 1st Circuit, D.C. Did I say the United States District Court, or did I say the United States Treasury Department? Secretary of Treasury. He is the one that supposedly IRS is collecting for. According to their rules, he is the one that's sitting here and saying, you cheated me. Why don't we start subpoenaing the United States Treasury Secretary, bring his books, bring your books, because if you're saying I owe you, then it has to be on your books. Your books have to bring your books, and we're going to have an administrative hearing with your IRS agent. And we're going to discuss several things here. But number one, we're going to get into the statutes at large of 1986 under Section 31, Money and Finances. I want you to sit here and on the record, we're going to sit here, we're going to talk about this because I have the statutes at large right here in my hand. And you and I are going to sit here and we're going to have a conversation. Because it sits here and says that you're using the collateral of the United States. That you and I talk about what the collateral is. Because are you using gold? Are you using silver? Are you using the lumber or the salt that you're pouring out from the Great Lakes? Are you using the oil that you're pouring out of the ground? Are you using this as collateral, or are you using me? And the reason why we're asking this, because once we're going to get into Title 12, and I want you people to get into Title 12 and punch up the statutes at large for Title 12, just like I want you, don't ask Rod, send it to me. No, I want you to do your own work. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the only way you're going to learn. Get into the United States Code, you get down to the state statutes at large, you click on it, you get into the statute at large for 1986, you go get into it, and you start pulling up Title 31, Money and Finances. It's like 250-some pages. Ladies and gentlemen, your answer lies in that statute at large. Because it says that they're borrowing credit off of the Federal Reserve. It says they are giving credit to the comptroller of currency, or the general comptroller. It says that general comptroller is giving credit to the banks. Title 12 is banking. The Federal Reserve gives credit to the banks. In turn, when you go into the bank, it says, when you, the people, put your name on the bill, that bill becomes the collateral. Not the house, not the car, not the wife, and not the kids or the dog. Your signature. Now, I want the United States Secretary of the Treasury Department, I want an administrative hearing with him. If you're going to drag me into an IRS issue, then let's go back to the agency. You're not dragging my ass into this goddamn court. That court is the wrong venue. That court is for a judicial review of a hearing that you never had. Don't do that. But Rod, I'm dealing with foreclosure. Does this not come under the same Title 31 and Title 12? Does not the banking issue on a foreclosure still come from the Secretary of Treasury? Why are we going into these courts when we need to be going to the administrative side and finding out why the banks did not discharge? Why the banks did not sit here and do their job right? After all, did you not get my signature as collateral? Yes or no? Ladies and gentlemen, we're being drugged into a judicial setup when we should be fighting for an administrative setup. Every time we deal with an agency, they drag us into judicial. And technically what that judicial is, if you go back and read the administrative side, that judicial is a judicial review of an administrative hearing that you never had. There lies the fraud. People, you want to be free. It's like I told a lady here yesterday. Majority of the people will dance around a fire instead of stomping on it to put it out. The problem is, while you're dancing around the fire, you're catching the forest on fire because you're not stomping on the fire because you're dancing around it and it's catching everything else on fire. You have to learn to meet these people head on. But God, my God, what are we going to do? Ladies and gentlemen, my way is not easy. But if you want to be free, you want to separate yourself, then let's deal with the agencies. Let's make them do what they're supposed to be doing. Why? Because I'm going to tell you something else what we found out. And we talked about it here before. I had a township commissioner that I talked to, and he confirmed what I knew down here. When a township, city, county, depending on where you're at, parish, I'm not going to get into a banning of words here. When that township buys vehicles, see if I had a vehicle here. Hold on. Vehicle. My granddaughter made this vehicle. This is going to be the example. Whenever the township purchases this, they maintain the MSO on that vehicle. It does not go to the state. When the township buys this, the MSOs goes to the township so they can put their tag on it. When the county buys their vehicles, includes the sheriff cruisers, the MSO does not go to the state. It stays with the county. So they can put their county tags on it. When the city buys vehicles, the MSO stays with the city. So they can put their city tag on it. Ladies and gentlemen, do we see a pattern here? Are we starting to comprehend why we need to go to the administrative side and stay out of the judicial? If the township holds the MSO on this, and they put their own tag on it, that vehicle was bought by you and I. We bought that vehicle. That township gets a debit card to put gas in their vehicle. They have a maintenance garage to work on their vehicle. They have insurance. Remember, that maintenance garage, that debit card, and that insurance all paid for by you. You, the audience. But the county buys their vehicle. Whether it's one of the big trucks, whether it is county truck, whether it is the police cars, whatever, fire trucks, whatever. They buy. But MSO stays with the county. And they, too, get a debit card. Their insurance is paid. They got a maintenance garage. Everything's free. Ain't free. Don't go debit card. Paid by you. Same thing with the city. Now, let's go to the state. We're going to the state vehicles, State Highway Patrol. Their MSO goes to the state. Why? Because the state owns that vehicle. We have a problem now. Everybody's getting a paycheck. We didn't know for sure but I definitely confirmed it out on this trip. Who holds the MSOs on all these vehicles? It isn't the state. It is the political subdivisions that hold their MSO. Why are we turning our MSO over to the states as not getting a debit card and a maintenance garage? And why is not the state paying our insurance? After all, county gets theirs paid for, township gets theirs paid for, the parish gets theirs paid for, the city gets theirs paid for, and they own it because they get the MSOs. So if the state has our MSO, why is our stuff not being paid for? That's why we have to have a license, ladies and gentlemen, but we're not getting a paycheck. We're not getting all the benefits out of this. We're not getting the retirements. We're not getting the medicals. Because if you ask any state employee, he's got insurance, and he's got vacation time, and he gets a paycheck, and ladies and gentlemen, you and I are getting shaft. And I don't mean a dry shaft. You want to be free? Our freedom is not in the court system. Our freedom is in the administration system. Of coming back in and now challenging the administration. Start demanding our merchandise back. The state owns that ditch. No, sir, I pay taxes on that ditch. I also pay taxes on that road. And you're standing on my property. I'm not standing on the state's. That's mine. Your whole attitude, ladies and gentlemen, is going to have to change. It isn't about change a status to a office that's vacant. So the lights are on and nobody's there. We need to start finding all of the administrative agencies. And like I said, North Carolina is the Industrial Commission of all names, industrial. But you know what? We found it. There are other commissions that we found in Ohio. The associations is another thing that we need to start going after, because these associations is nothing more than a job finder. What do you mean by that? Those of you that are familiar with Manpower and some of these other agencies that find you jobs, these associations are also job finders for police officers, state highway patrol, sheriff, prosecutors, judges. Whoops. What, are you telling me that there is an association? We found it. Federal Judge Association. Right here in North Carolina. We found the association for the prosecutors. We need to get back into their bylaws. Because if they belong to that association, then they have to come under their bylaws. And guess what? Their bylaws do not include everything that they're doing out on the street. Like I said, this time off, I've been busy. I've been researching because I've been working with people and I've been digging. But I've been hunting. We need to start going to their administrations and filing in our complaints, filing in our grievances. We need to start going in to the Bar Association and the Supreme Court of the states and the legislators pick one out of the legislation. Pick one, pick two. I don't care. Pick one, pick two. Why? Because when you go to the state legislature, you go back into your state constitution, you find some wonderful things in your state constitution. How to impeach. I taught this back in 2005, and it's still worth its weight in gold today. You go to the Supreme Court, Chief Judge. Why? Remember, supposedly, the Bar Association goes to the Supreme Court. So does disbarment. You go back and bring a claim that they breached their rules of professional conduct. You go back and show where they violated the rules of court. Now remember, we talked about this. The Supreme Court out of each state creates the rules for the courts. They create their rules. Civil, criminal, evidence, appellate, you name it, they create it. Go back to the Supreme Court, go back to the state, go back to the Secretary of State, because all associations are supposed to be registered with the Secretary of State. You go to the governor, lieutenant governor, the attorney general, Supreme Court, and the two legislators. Find two. Then you go to the Bar Association, and you hunt for your commissions that deals with the administrative side for tort claim. But we don't stop there, because now we notify the Treasury Department. Look, what's that got to do with the traffic stop? Guess who writes the check for the federal funding? Secretary of Treasury cuts the checks for the states. We go to the Inspector General for the Treasury, and we report federal funding fraud and abuse and misuse. Because we got the state coming back and saying that these people don't work here. They're not part of the state. You go back and dig up, like I sat down and said, $393 million out of federal funding went out to bulletproof vests for their side of the fence. Federal funding bought their cruisers. Federal funding bought their camera. Federal funding bought their radar. Federal funding bought their equipment. But they don't work here. They're not part of the state. I think it's time we start going to the administration and we start filing complaints into the administration. Because what's the Supreme Court judge going to sit back and say? Well, we don't have any control over the Bar Association. That's not part of our jurisdiction. Thank you very much, because now you just sit here and told me the Bar Association doesn't come under the Supreme Court like we've been told. And they don't have the right to practice law because you don't acknowledge them. Thank you. Go back to the Bar Association. I said bars as in plural, not one. We're dealing with a state bar and two city bars from two different parts of the state of Ohio. We're dealing with Cincinnati and Columbus, because that's where the Bar Association sits, where most lawyers have to get their Bar Association in order, along with the Ohio State Bar. So you notify as many Bar Associations as you can. And what are they going to sit here and say? We don't recognize these guys. We don't know who they are. They're not part of us. They're going to throw them under the bus. Commercial funding. Somebody is going to start taking notice. When you take it out of the state and you start going to the Treasury Department, which writes the checks, you start going to the Inspectors General of the Treasury Department, who's supposed to be keeping an eye on the checks, making sure that they're done right. Ladies and gentlemen, your remedy lies in the administration. Not sitting here trying to fill up, well, I'm going to separate myself. You got to separate yourself from what? I'm already an American citizen. I did not expatriate. They did. This is where the whole issue lies, ladies and gentlemen. It's for us to address this administratively. For us to address this on what we are laying out. When they take you into a judicial setup, they know full well that that's the wrong venue and jurisdiction, and that's why the judge tells us, we can't do anything, because he knows we're dealing with an administrative, and we were trying to act on a judicial side instead of administrative side. It's time that we wake up. It's time that we start understanding. It's time we start taking back what belongs to us. And ladies and gentlemen, the administrative side is the way to go back and do it, because it is the agencies that have all of our possessions. They own your property, they own your car, they own your birth certificate, they own your marriage license. You don't have anything that doesn't go through the administration side. You have never went down to the court to sit down and say, I want my birth certificate. I want you to go down to the corporate court on the judicial side and say, I want my birth certificate. Have you got my birth certificate here? They're going to tag you. You go down to the county health department. Well, it's administrative. Yes. But I'm always being dragged into the judicial side. Anytime anything happens, I'm being dragged in judicial. I'm assuming that you people have all this stuff. Anytime we're being dragged in here. When's the last time that a judge sat here and took you out for a driver's test? When's the last time the prosecutor ever gave you an eye exam to be able to drive? When's the last time you went down to the corporate court and got a license plate? Do we see a pattern here, ladies and gentlemen? Everything that we are involved in is administrative, and not one thing is judicial. Not one single thing is judicial. It's all administration. And that's what we need to understand. That's what we need to come back and start going to. We need to find out who is the head of the administration that we are dealing with. Who is above them? Who is in charge of them? Who is the top dog on all of this? That's the one we need to find. And ladies and gentlemen, I found them. I've got paperwork back from the Industrial Commission for me to go file a tort claim. And it gave me a list of who all is on it. Anybody who holds a public office. Anybody who holds a public office. Anybody that is part of an agency. Anybody that is part of a department. That's what's on this list of who you can bring into, and you know what? I have not been able to find my name or your name or anybody else's name on this document. I found agencies and public officials, elected or appointed or contractors. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what we need to start going after. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what we have to start dealing with. Quit playing in the judicial system. Well, I get stopped. Better start learning how to penetrate your administrative side. Learn to start going after. Start doing the research today. If you get picked up right now, then I'm going to tell you, go pay your fine. Go pay your fine and go back to do the research. If you're not having problems, but you are, and you don't know it yet, well, how do you figure? You're making a mortgage payment? Making a car payment? And you got IRS on April 15th. You got to file paperwork out for IRS. I could have read. Never too late, listen. You have a problem already, and you don't know it. I'm for asking for administrative hearings. Once you've done the research, I do know my way's hard. It took me time. But like I've told you people, learn their rules, learn their job, know their language, and know congressional intent. And congressional intent is not in the United States Code or Code of Federal Regulations. It's in the statutes at large and the enactment of Congress. That is where the intent is. You will never find it in the United States Code. You will never find it in the CFR. The only place to find it is in the legislative enactment. That's the only place you're going to find it. And I want to bring you people up on something else that you never thought of. Remember, the state does not own anything. These people are in and out of office. They don't own squat. They owe you their livelihood. Same thing with the federal government. They don't own. It belongs to us. They're nothing more than caretakers. And they're supposed to be taking care of our property, and they're not doing it. But I want to bring something else up. Those people who have been charged for plagiarism, for copyright violation, you sold the United States Code in your document. My God, you committed a crime. Okay. Question. Who gave the money to the legislator to create the law, or to the law firm that created the law for the legislator? Where did they get this? Where did they get this money from? And who gave the federal funding to the book company to print this stuff out and screw it up so bad because they didn't do it right? Who paid them? Where'd you get your money from that? You and I right, ladies and gentlemen. So let me get this straight. I sit here and I put the United States Code and CFR, and I used it in my paperwork, which is copyrighted. And I paid the bill for all this. And I paid the finances for all this, and I'm being charged because I'm using what I paid for. Now, we got a problem here, ladies and gentlemen. Like I told you in the beginning, these people don't have nothing without you and I. They own nothing. They can't pay a bill that it doesn't belong to you and I. There isn't anything that they eat that doesn't belong to you and I because we paid for it. At some place down along the line, we paid for it. And the sooner you start understanding this, and you start getting a grasp on this, the sooner and the better you're going to be able to understand the administrative side and why the administrative side is so important. That when we are attacked by an agency, we flip it around and throw it back into their agency and demand a hearing. Because the moment we do, we now become the plaintiff. We're never a defendant. We now become the plaintiff. Want to be free? Don't change your status. Change your attitude. Understand who you're dealing with. It isn't about who I am. It's about who I am dealing with. It is about who is attacking me out on the street. And what right do they have when they're not following federal guidelines and proper procedures? Because, well, we only follow state laws. Excuse me, state law doesn't get anything unless it gets federal funding, and your automobile is through the Department of Transportation, which is DOT under Title 49. That's federal. And if you go back and look at your title, little print for the odometer reading says Title 49 USC code, and it gives you the section number for the odometer reading. If that title odometer reading is under federal law, guess what else is under federal law? Guess what else is under federal financing? State Highway Patrol up in Ohio got $1.9 million in federal funding under the Highway Safety Act. There was another law firm or legal department, lawyers, that was supposed to receive $1 billion, but they were only allocated $383 million. This is for the lawyers, for their one association that they belong to. Ladies and gentlemen, these people don't operate unless they operate under federal funding. Federal funding comes from you and I. Federal funding is the key to this. But Rod, we got state funds, and where does the state get theirs? Go back and check your own country and see if the revenue from that in that country does not come from the people. Now, I will admit, in Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, they get theirs from the oil. They get theirs from natural resources, and there are several other countries that get from their natural resources. The ones that are tied into the Federal Reserve System, you and I are the collateral. You and I are the credit line. If it wasn't for us, they would have nothing because they are stealing everything else. And that doesn't belong to them. Ladies and gentlemen, start doing the research. Start looking for the commissions in your state. Start going by, and how I found someone's going back under the associations. Police Association, Sheriff Association, State Highway Patrol Association, Prosecutor Association, Judges Association, and they start taking over to other links of who they answer to. There is a claim court on these people. The administrative court should have. But they did come back out and say, we don't know who these people are. And the rooster did not crow 3 times. They said back and said, we don't know who they are. They don't work for us. They're not part of us. They threw these people under a bus. Ladies and gentlemen, it isn't that I'm trying to harass law enforcement. That isn't the point. These guys have got a job to do. Problem is they're not doing their job right because, number one, they're told never to read law books. Don't do any research. You got any question, you go talk to the prosecutor. You go talk to the lawyer. Don't think for yourself. Don't do any research. No matter what people hand you, throw it away. Don't read it. If you got any doubt, you talk to a lawyer. That's where the problem lies with law enforcement. They're not educated. They say ignorance of the law is no excuse. They don't even know the law. You get them on the witness stand. Well, I don't know nothing about this. I just do what I'm told. Well, yeah, so did Nazi Germany. 1945 Nuremberg. That says it all, ladies and gentlemen. We just do what we're told. Yeah, I can see Nazi Germany. I can see Nuremberg all over again. If these people would take the time and do the research, they'll find out they're committing more felonies than the people they're pulling over. They're committing more crimes. I wasn't trying to harass these 3 guys, 3 state troopers out here. I was trying to talk to one and say, hey, man, you know what's going on here? You're violating federal laws. I don't want to see you get into trouble. I don't want to see you get sued. Instead of trying to have a peaceful, private conversation, he escalated it into a full-blown argument out on the highway. And that was stupid on his part. Because all I wanted to do was sit down and hold a nice, peaceful conversation saying, hey, man, what you're doing here is wrong. You're violating federal laws. You're violating federal regs. I don't want to see you getting into trouble. Now, supposedly he had one guy that had a warrant out for his arrest. And that is not, again, we can get into that because North Carolina don't have any criminal jurisdiction in their court system. We proved this in court. They're not real happy with me. I really don't care. I'm not happy with them either, because that's why I filed charges in the Industrial Commission, because they're not doing their job right. If they'd be doing their job right, I wouldn't have to do what I'm doing. And if they were doing their job right, we all would not be out here trying to find a way out of the system. And I keep telling you, we don't need to get out. We need to fix it. You don't stomp around the fire. You stomp through the fire and you put the fire out. Stomping around it and you're spreading it. And you got to catch the whole woods on fire. The way to fix the problem is get to the root. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what I do. I get to the root. I go straight to the administration. This is how we free ourselves. This is how we separate ourselves. This is how we get our stuff back. Because like I sit here and said, if the township holds the MSO on this, so they can put their tag on it, and the city holds the MSO, so they put their city tags on it. And the county holds their MSO, so they can put their county tags on it. And all these people get a paycheck, all these people get a debit card, all their insurance is paid, all their maintenance is taken care of. If our car is registered to the state, then we should get a debit card. We should get a paycheck. This vehicle should be maintained, tires put on it, whatever it needs, tune-up, transmission fluid, oil change, spark plugs, you name it. And every 4 years, we should be able to go out and buy a brand new one at the state's expense, not ours. After all, it's registered to the state. They hold the MSO. It's got the state tag on it. It don't have a county tag. It don't have a city tag. It don't have a township tag. It don't have a parish tag. It's got a state tag. So they should be paying for everything. This is an administrative issue. This is an administrative problem, ladies and gentlemen. There's no way to make this any plainer. There's no way to make this any simpler. There is no way to lay this thing out any better than I just did. When you went down and you purchased this, did you go down to the courthouse and register this at the courthouse? Or did you take it to administration? How is it that the judicial side keeps getting involved in something that is purely administrative? How is it we keep being drugged in and thrown in jail for what is supposed to be a civil penalty and a civil action under an administration problem? How is it we keep getting hammered in the wrong venue in the wrong jurisdiction? But Rod, what's that court for? What that court is supposed to be for, ladies and gentlemen, is this. If you and I have a conflict, not the state, not the city, not the county, you and I have a conflict. You and I are to be able to walk into that court about bring my lawyer with me? Sorry. Chapter 84 of North Carolina statutes under 84.2 says who is prohibited. Your lawyer cannot walk into the courtroom. You have to do it on your own. This is why my son-in-law's ex-wife lawyer never showed up. That's why she never showed up. Because we went back and showed they can't walk into the court. Ladies and gentlemen, I brought this up before. Title 36, United States Code, Chapter 705, or 7503. 7501, 2, 3, up to 12. Read it. It's the Bar Charter. The Bar Association can only represent the government. They can only represent an agency or the employees. Go back and read it. It tells you who they can. Your name's not on it. My name's not on it. John Doe's name's not on it. Neither is John Smith. Agencies and government is the only thing that a lawyer can represent. They cannot walk into a courtroom. But Rod, we're dealing with federal court. You're absolutely right. That Title 36 deals with Federal Bar Association. If they're going to walk into that courtroom, they got to come in compliance with Supreme Court decisions, and they got to come in compliance with federal law. Isn't it amazing what they put in their books for us to find? And isn't it amazing that when we find this stuff, a lot of us don't comprehend what we're reading? I want to sit down and show you something if I got it here. This is something that people don't understand. People do not know how to read. They know how to skim. They know how to look across. They don't know how to read. That's the number one problem. I had that problem for a long time. Trying to find a constitution. I had one here the other day. I go, excuse me, let me just wait for a minute. I'll be right back. Don't go away. I did some cleaning in here the other day in my shop, and I cleaned up my guest. Maybe it's in the door. Yep, there it is. My door. I want to show you people something. I want you to look at the wording. I want you to pay attention to what the wording says. Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution. Article 3, Section 2. Okay. Article 3, Section 2. The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and in equity. The judicial power. I want you to read Article 3, Section 1. It says the judicial power of the United States. The judicial power of the United States. Article 3, Section 2, it says the judicial power shall. What's the significance in this? We're going to take you over to the 11th Amendment. Amendment. The judicial power of the United States. The judicial power of the United States shall not be construed. What are you saying, Rod? When they amended Article 3, Section 2, it says the judicial power shall. When they created the 11th Amendment, it said the judicial power of the United States. Think what I just said here said. One says judicial power. The other one says the judicial power of the United States shall not be construed. So are you telling me that these courts we are walking into are not part of the United States? That's why they're operating the way they are? I think we need to go back to the question. Is this court part of the United States? Yes or no? Well, of course it is. The 11th Amendment says you don't have any power. It doesn't say judicial. It says judicial power of the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a thing of reading, and there's a thing of understanding what you're reading. We have been taught to read. We've never been taught to understand. We have never been taught to associate. We've never been taught to comprehend. We have just been taught, just read, just read. Don't pay no attention to it, just read. Don't understand it, just read. Never been taught to associate. Comprehend, associate. Comprehend administrative agency is stopping me. Associate that we should be going before an administrative hearing, not judicial. You don't see the judge out here on the street in a judge mobile pulling you over. You don't see the prosecutor out on the street in a prosecutor mobile with lights pulling you over to drag you into the judicial side. What you have is an administration that's in violation of the federal regulations that they're supposed to be defending, and they are not, dragging you into a wrong venue, into a wrong jurisdiction. I don't know, again, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how to make this any plainer. I don't know how to make it any simpler. I don't know how to make it easy for you to comprehend. I have taken so much cereal and breading out of my teaching. We're dealing with facts. I have pretty much done running through all the rabbit holes and all the trails to where now I've got a straight shot. You stop me on the street, I'll take you to the International Industrial Commission. Stop me here, I'll take you there. You come see me on a foreclosure, and you and I go see a trip to the Secretary of Treasury. I have an IRS issue. Let's you and I take a trip to the United States Treasury. Let's go see if my name's on the book for non-payment. I got a traffic issue. Let's you and I go see the Secretary of Transportation. That's who we're supposed to be dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. They have complicated this. And we have been brainwashed so bad. And we have been dumbed down so bad. And we've been told, like they have, well, this is a legal issue. You need to go talk to a lawyer. Excuse me? This is an administrative issue. We need to go talk to your administrator. Who do I go to in order to bring a tort claim against you? That's the people we need to go talk to. Who do I need to go talk to bring a tort claim against you? My buddy sit here and asked, and he got the answer that fast. They know who can take them and take their job off of them. Who do I go to get a tort claim against you? What agency? What commission? Freedom is not free. I got into this with my wife. Majority of the people take freedom for granted. Freedom is something you fight for. You want to separate yourself, then you do it the right way. If the state owns the MSO, then we need to go back and say we either want our credit card and we want paid, or you give me my MSO back and I will put my own tag on it, and I want my shit now. Because if the township holds their MSOs, and the city holds them MSOs, and the county holds their MSOs, and the parish holds them MSOs, I want mine. Or I want a paycheck, I want health care, I want retirement, I want vacation pay, and I want my stuff fixed. I want a brand new car every 4 years like you guys get. Until we speak up, I have been busy these last several weeks with the information that we have found in order to bring this to you tonight, in order to address this stuff tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Houston, Texas. There's going to be there's a flyer out on AIB Radio. We're going to be in Houston, Texas on the 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th for 4 days. We're going to do a seminar. Cost $1,000 a head. I do know, Rod, my God. You got other people out here charging $2,600 and $2,500 for 4 and 5 days. And you're not getting remedy. You're not being told how to get remedy. There's a proper way. There is no halfway of doing this. And one of the things you think there is, I challenge you people tonight. I want you go get a cake mix. I want you to make me a cake. Don't add water. Don't add egg. I want you to make me a cake out of the powder. Do not add any of the other ingredients, because after all, we're here to take a shortcut. We're not here to do it right. We're here to find a shortcut in order to get through this, because it takes too long to get the water and get the eggs and get the beater and get the bowl and get the oven and get it turned on and get it preheated. It takes too much time. I want you to make me a cake out of powder with none of the other ingredients with it, and see how far you get. That's our problem, ladies and gentlemen. I have brought the cake mix, the eggs, the water, the beater, the bowl, the oven. I preheated it. I've got the timer. I put the spray on the pan so the cake don't stick. When I get out of the oven, I have the icing to put on top. It took me longer to do it right than it is for me to try to make a cake out of powder and do nothing and add nothing to it. And ladies and gentlemen, that's our problem. We want shortcuts. We don't want to do what it takes to do it right. It's just easy to eat the powder, and after all, it is a cake. We just eat the powder instead. My time, my way, takes longer. My time that I put into this is I have been able to run down enough rabbit trails to shorten this thing up. The seminar in Texas is going to be for 4 days, 24th through 27th, in Houston, Texas. We're going to sit down, and we're going to lay this stuff out, and I'm going to sit down, and we're going to start working with people and start walking them through this stuff. If you want to go to the seminar, I'm going to give you the Gmail address. It is seminars, SEMINARS, period, event at gmail.com. The number is 832-844-0071. I'll say it again. Seminars, SEMINARS, period. Event, 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 at gmail.com. The phone number is 832-844-0071. I talked to a lady named Kim. She's the one that's setting this thing up. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want your freedom, it comes at a price. If you want your stuff back, it comes at a price. The only ones who can get your stuff back is you. And the only way to get it back is through administration, not through judicial. The courts don't have your stuff. The courts don't have your birth certificate. The courts don't have your title. The courts don't have your Social Security. The courts don't have your child's birth certificate. The courts don't have your marriage license. It may be registered in the court records. That's the administrative office. That's an administrative office. Oh, darn, I thought I had you. No, that's an administrative office. So we're talking to court, we're talking to judge, we're talking to prosecutor, we're talking to clerk of court, we're talking to public defender or the lawyer. Everything we deal with is administrative. We need to start on administratively and addressing this issue on what we're doing. It's going to take you and I the ability to go do this. It's going to take you and I to be able to sit down and bring this claim administratively into the proper venue and jurisdiction. We need to defrag what we thought. We need to relearn who we're dealing with and what we're dealing with. It's not about who I am. You can walk into court and say, I know who I am. Because you're going to laugh at you. So what? I know who you are too. What's your point? So when you walk into that courtroom and you say, I've changed the venue on you, I got to just move to the administrative court. And if you try to hear this, I know where to take you for a tort claim. Not a threat, a statement of fact. I know where to take you. It isn't about me, it's about them. Knowing who they are and where we can take them. That's what this is about. And until we change, until we sit back and adjust and get better educated and quit trying to take shortcuts. I didn't learn this by shortcuts. I learned this by being in the trenches. I learned this by going head to head with these people. I learned this by doing the research. You can't make a cake by the box itself. You have to add other ingredients. You can't make a pie without the filling and the pan and all the other ingredients that goes with the pie. We can't set ourselves free with only partial shortcut ways of doing things. Our avenue is administrative. Our avenue is understanding our adversary. Our freedom is based on our ability to go to the right door and make the right issue. Nobody else can do this for you. You have to do it. You have got to get involved. You've got to sit here and make the issue. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been busy. The information we're coming up with is priceless, valuable. It is going to take you to relearn a lot of what you did not know and defrag what you think you know. And once you start understanding who holds what and how their system and how they operate within their system, I'll guarantee you, the majority of you people was not aware of who owns the MSOs on their vehicles. I'll guarantee you, a lot of you had no clue. This is why these people have to have a driver's license. This is why we are getting burnt. You're required to have a state license. I'm required to get a paycheck. I'm required to get free medical. I'm required to get a retirement. I'm required to have a license. You guys get it? You drive state vehicles? I want one too. Start checking in your states, ladies and gentlemen. Start researching. Start going through the associations. Start punching in different associations. Bar Association, Police Association, Sheriff Association, Judge Association, Prosecutors Association, Public Defenders Association, and start checking out different links. Start reading what's on their sites, because they start leading you to other links. And once you start going to these other links, you start finding information that, wow, we never knew. It takes time. It takes research. Rod, I'm working. I understand that. Rod, I don't have time. I understand that too. Got one question for you. You get picked up today, you get thrown in jail for 45 days, 60 days, 90 days. Do you have time to go to jail? Or you got to sit back and tell the judge, Your Honor, I just don't have time to go to jail because I've got a busy work schedule. I'm holding down a job. I'm working 8, 12-hour days, 8, 12 hours. Sometimes 5 to 6 days a week. Right? I just don't have time to go to jail. You know how far that's going to put you? It's about as far for the sheriff to handcuff you and walk you out the door and walk you down to the jail. Make time. Because I'll guarantee you, you'll have time for jail. And if you've got time for jail, you got time to study. To keep you out of jail. You've got time to know who you're up against. And remember, that judge at no point had anything to do with you at any given time from the time that you were born all the way up to the time they drug you into that courtroom. You've dealt with nothing but administrative agencies. From the time that you were born to the time that you were stopped out on the street with nothing but administrative agencies. At no time was judicial ever brought into this. But Rod, you're considered dead. You're under probate. Aren't we dealing with administration? How did I get probated whenever everything was done through the administration? Ladies and gentlemen, this is food for thought. I'm not out here twisting your arm. I'm not out here browbeating you. I'm not out here forcing you to sit down and read, research, and do what you need to do. This is a choice. This is an opportunity. This is not being shoved down your throat and your arm twisted. You either do it or else. Or I'm going to keep hounding and hounding and hounding and hounding until you finally submit. That isn't what these shows are about. These shows are about education. These shows are about knowledge. These shows are to sit back and make you think and let you look at things in a different way, in a different light, and say, you know what, man, I never thought about that. Maybe I need to go back and do a little bit of research on this. Because you know what? I have never had any dealing with a court until this administrative agency dragged me into it. And according to their own administrative rules, I was supposed to have an administrative hearing. Administrative hearing, not a judicial. Administrative. Ladies and gentlemen, it's up to you. The choice is yours. Information is out here. We're giving it to you. We're broadcasting it. In Texas, it's going to be different because here is internet. It may be live, but I'm starting to find out being in person and actually seeing stuff written and shown has more effect than it does on the internet. Because I sat down with a group of people up here in Ohio, and I walked in through the congressional records that shows that the Federal Reserve note is not money. They've heard, they've never seen. We walked in through your signature. It's the collateral, what we heard, but we never seen. Seeing is believing. Getting you to do the research that is part of you seeing and believing. It does no good for me to hand out. I can tell you where the stuff is at, but I want you to go do the research. I want you to put your time in to look some of this stuff up, because why? Because when you can start finding this stuff, when you start dealing with other cases, and you get into the pattern of doing the research and not having them handed to you, I can hand you a fish all day long. Here's a fish you can eat. Here's a fish you can eat. What happens to you if something happens to me and you no longer have a fish? You were never taught how to go back and do it on your own. You were never taught where to go back and do it on your own. Ladies and gentlemen, that's part of my teaching. I'm not here to hand out and to give me. I'm here to show you and for you to go back and do the research. This is why I can walk into a traffic court, IRS case, foreclosure, criminal, probate, you name it, I can walk in. Why? Because once I've learned to do the research, once I've learned to dig this stuff up, it now becomes repetition. Associate, comprehend. That works here, then it will work over here, and over here, and over here. That's why I want you to do the research. That's why I want you to start looking this stuff up. Because once you start learning, then there isn't anything at all that gets thrown your way you won't be able to handle. Because once you learn the basis, learn their rules, learn their language, learn their job, learn the congressional intent, on any topic, any subject, any issue, once you learn one, it's repetition with the other. It's association. It's comprehending. It's all the same. Just different name, different topic, same BS. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what AIB has always been about. Education. Getting you to understand. Getting you to comprehend. Getting you to do your own research. Get yourself out of your own jam. Let's quit playing with the judicial system and start going after the administration system. When we are dealing with administrators, let's deal with administrators. If an administration stops you, let's go back to the administration and have a hearing. Learn to stay on point. It's taken me a real long time to learn this. But once I've learned this, the knowledge has overflowed with wow, here. Like I said, when we get confirmed on a phone call, one question, where do I take them for a tort? Boom. The answer was Industrial Commission. That's where we take them, for North Carolina. But you have to have your paperwork in order. You have to know what you're charged with. You have to be to prove they did something wrong. What did they violate? Where did they violate? What part of their job did they do wrong? All this has to be part of this before you get taken into there. Same thing with the IRS. Have your ducks in a row. Know what you're talking about. Know what you're addressing, and go after it. Foreclosure, same way. Ladies and gentlemen, from 2013 till here February this year, my hands were tied. On February 9th, my hands got untied at midnight. I no longer have a cloud over my head. I'm free to run, I'm free to go, and I'm free to hammer. And February 10th, I started hammering. Ladies and gentlemen, it's up to you. We're coming down to the closing minutes. I'm asking you, for those who have watched this, my Skype address is AIB.radio. All lowercase, AIB.radio. If you've seen this, contact me, sit down and you see me on CCN, and we can accept you on what you're doing. Ladies and gentlemen, donations are always a necessity. What we're doing is not cheap. What we're doing takes time, electricity, energy. Biggie down there has crew. Donations need to come to him. The information we're giving out, ladies and gentlemen, it's like a church. Donations are welcome. Because those donations shows us that you care. Those donations that we send to us assist us. That's what's helped build this building I'm in. It is what's helping keeping things going the way things are going when money's tight. Donations for me would go to P.O. Box 435 High Shoals, HIGHSHOALS. P.O. Box 435 High Shoals, North Carolina 28077 is the zip. Put it down for Rod. Money orders, I take postal money orders. Most people do not sign them. They just put the amount on it, send it to me. I fill it out for this way. There's no traces of who it come from. Some people put Federal Reserve notes in an envelope and aluminum foil and send it. All this is fine. Some people do send me checks, but I prefer postal money order. I do prefer, if you're going to do it with Federal Reserve notes. Ladies and gentlemen, your freedom is at stake. And that's exactly what AIB is all about. That's what these signs behind me is all about. The Private Attorney General, 14th Amendment bounty hunter. It's about your freedom. It's about people getting organized and start holding people accountable and start going after them. This is about your freedom. This show is about your freedom. This show is about you. Donations, there's appreciation for what we do and how we do it, and the fact that you're being broadcasted. Because if you had to go dig this information up, you never would know how to go find it or where to get it from. We're doing the hard work for you. Like I said, it's no different than church. If the church sits here and gives you a good sermon, they get donations. We're here to give you knowledge. I'm not competing with God, and I can't compete with God. God's given me the knowledge. God's given me wisdom, understanding, and the ability to explain it to the best of my ability. I want to thank you for being in here tonight. This will be posted in a few days. I will be home for a while. My wife is going to be looking at get surgery here on her hands, which means I'm going to have to do everything around the house. So I'm going to really be tied up at the house because she's not going to be able to function. I've had to build a new ramp up on her house so she can get in because she's having problems lifting her legs. Her health is going down. So, all the help we can get, all the prayers that we can get. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you. We're out of time. I appreciate you being here, and thank you.
Thank you for tuning into CCN. This unique network is dedicated to free and independent media. CCN was created with the belief that information is a common heritage of all beings, which is why our live stream high-definition broadcast is easily accessible and free to view. If we want to change the world, we must first change the media. Having